Good morning. This is Norma Cowie with a Sunday thought. Today, many experience anxiety. I know because a large section of my transformation clientele phone up and around anxiety. And I have the privilege of being able to discover the base of that. Now, the base of anxiety basically is fear. And how does it arrive? How come we used to not be fearful about what was happening in our lives, and now we are fearful of what's going on? Surprisingly, it can happen from many different ways coming in. And we could say, oh, yeah, what people see on television, what people hear on the radio, if they listen to that or live streaming or whatever, it can trigger. Now, what does it trigger? That is the thing. For me, as a past life regressionist as well, very often what I find is a lot of past lives. So someone comes and wants a transformation around anxiety. They're feeling high anxiety. They're not performing well in their lives. They're fearful. They're unsure. What am I finding? Well, lots of things, actually. But what I wanted to refer to today was very often past lives where people have been a slave, whether they've been a servant, often women, and unfortunately, in some respects, most of my clientele are women, but like their past lives that they remember are women where they have no power. In other words, you have to be quiet, you have to do as you're told, or you pay a consequence. Now, how do we clear that today? Well, first of all, I do need to talk about one thing else, the collective consciousness. I have spoken about the collective consciousness. We have a consciousness and we are aware of our thought patternings. And it's really important to be aware of your thought patterns because the thought patterns actually create, according to me and many others, your basic vibration. In other words, you create what's happening. Not always. Things are bigger than. And that's often the collective consciousness. People become frightened. People become afraid. People are not sure. And I know today many of my friends and many of the people I speak to are really aware about the giving up of our personal rights that are leaving. And a lot of that is based because many of us have had lives where that has happened. And we know the outcome. We know the result. And so the key is to go and get in touch what I call the universal love system. There's many names for it: God, Allah, Buddha, anything that brings peace within the inner self. And there are many names. And it's, for me, I define it. I have a name which I use myself, which is like a divine essence, because I can feel the essence of it. I also, in my work, talk about the universal love source. And I put my hand out this way. It's interesting because it's about bringing it inside. It's about allowing it to come in and giving and surrendering. There's this word that most people do not like, as I rewrite it on my pad of paper in front of me. We do not like to surrender. I remember the first time I was told by a person, just surrender it, Norma. Well, I was very angry. And the interesting thing, years later, when I came to the point where I had to surrender, I had to let go, I had to recognize that the power that is there, that wants the very best for me, knew what was best for me. I used to fight it all the time. I was one of these, I want to do it my way. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I just wouldn't surrender to the love that I knew was there. Yes, but I wanted to do it my way, kind of thing. And it was really interesting because even now, I find sometimes I have to just take a breath, bring myself into place where I know the energy resides within me, bring it forward. And you might say surrender to that, because I'm more of a mental, not mental crazy, but a mental person. I do a lot of thinking. I've used it to put processes together. I've used it to make sense of things, and it's very effective, but it's only one half of me. The other half is my emotional half, and we all have that. That's why we have two parts of the brain. And part of for their emotion is set somewhere else than for our mental, and we need balance. And that's another thing I work on with people, is to create a balance between those two aspects. Not one of them is more important than the other. But in my life, because I was a thinker, and it would seem like sometimes that I would not surrender to the feeling and listening to what my body was saying. And my body's connected to the earth, the planet that we live on. So I had quite a learning curve to go through. But I learned as I confronted many blocks and many obstacles in my life. And it's, people sometimes think because we are part of the force and know the love and know the understanding and know the promise in some ways that God has given us, I'll use the God word at the moment, is that we need to surrender. We need to listen. We need to know. We need to, we talk about we have a high self. I just ran into someone the other day and I was saying, do you listen to your high self? And I got a blank look. But we have a little thought in there where other aspect of ourselves can direct and help. But we need to be able to surrender and let go of what we need to now. So I'm going to come back to fear for a moment. When we have this of fear and anxiety, we first of all need to know how our thinking works so that we can change how our thinking works. So that when we have these thoughts, we get scared because we don't know, or we don't want to risk. Very often we don't want to risk what we have, what our belief I find sometimes people send me things and I go, why don't they just trust rather than thinking someone's going to come from somewhere else and save the day? We have to save the day. We have to save our own lives. Now, I've had miracles happen when I've surrendered. And that was one of the big lessons. I was like back against the world. Nothing was working economically, personally, everything was gone. I was just me, myself, and I. And I just had to let go. And in letting go, miracles happened in my life, and my life got to be recreated. Now I've had to do it a couple of times, but not to the extent like I had to do it in that particular time. And guess what? I just turned 60. My whole life was a shambles. It had gone wrong. And all of a sudden, everything opened up brand new. I had to do some things I didn't really want to do, but I needed to do it to survive. Because when you are allowed to let go of the anxiety and you take responsibility for your part and everything that is occurring to and around you, knowing that you are going to be led to your highest good, the highest point of your life, the highest point where you know that you are supported by this unseen energy. Fear is unseen, but we're exposed to it every day right now. We're exposed to it in one way or another. Your friends, the TV, the live streaming, the whatever, fearful. Let's just relax. Let's surrender to the power to give us the motion, the courage, the wisdom, the awareness to be able to recognize that we are free beings and that we do have a mind that can work beyond the confines by allowing. And as I go back to the word surrender again, surrendering to the power that strengthens us to know that we have a power within us, that we can achieve what we wish for everyone, not just ourselves, because we are part of that collective consciousness. We are a part of that. And what are we contributing to that? When we're contributing fear, it will touch on the fear of us. And many of us have not cleaned up our past lives, have not cleaned up those elements that we keep recreating what we have created before as a humanity, as people, humans. And so my Sunday thought is today is to let go of your anxiety and fear and feel the love and support of this love force. Know that you can clear it, whether it's coming from somewhere, because often I know one place, I used to be petrified of heights, mainly because I'd fallen from them and hurt myself several times in my life. And when I was little, I never had a fear of heights. And it was something that grew over time because I fell and broke bones and things like that. And then one day I learned a technique that all of a sudden I'm not afraid. I wasn't afraid. I could be high and look down. And before I was a fearful mess. Fear is something that we carry within us that can be triggered from the outside. Just make sure that you're aware of what's triggering you, what like what would you say, bringing up inside all that. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to take the safe route. The safe route is not always the best route. So, yeah, surrender. A word I didn't think I was going to. That's why I start talking and these ideas come. But know that fear is the base of your anxiety. You can clear it, and you can find where it comes from, and you can make a conscious choice to think differently. Trust you'll have a great Sunday. I really wish you well. I really wish that it's a great week. We've got Halloween coming up, so enjoy.